Hello there guys, and welcome to Saturday's live stream here for this weekend's action of IFMC. I am JWF1 and we are here to kick things off for today's live stream for the qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix, and hopefully we're in for an exciting one. If you didn't see what happened last weekend in Brazil, it was a very lucky victory for Max Verstappen in the end, with Sergio Perez second and Esteban Ocon in third. It should have been Fernando Alonso's victory last weekend, but due to a problem on the last 3 laps for him, he pulled off onto the side of the track and gifted Max Verstappen his first Grand Prix victory. So it's been 2 out of 2 for the Martini team, but Etihad looking to bounce back here in Bahrain, with it being bright and sunny here for today's qualifying session. And a couple of notes as well: 6 out of the 11 teams have made upgrades here for this weekend. On the top of that as well, both Suomis have a qualifying ban, Kimi Räikkönen and Kevin Magnussen, for their separate incidents that they caused in Brazil. So neither of the Suomis will be taking part today. And of course, some of the teams having to censor alcohol sponsors here because Bahrain bans alcohol here, and those teams being Etihad, Bud Light Lime, Suomi and Shadow. In terms of the pit boxes as well, where the pit stands are, Martini and Bud Light Lime Motorsport have had to do some sensors on their pit boards as well, but that's that really. So bright and sunny here at Bahrain. So let's get into this then, shall we? Without further ado, let's get to the 35-minute qualifying session. So here we are then in the pit lane, and we're going to go to the end of the pit lane with Oliver Rowland. So we will wait and get this session underway. Räikkönen and Magnussen are spectators for this as well. Neither of them will be competing in this qualifying session, so only 20 cars will compete in qualifying. And we wait for some pit activity to kick off this session, and we have some in the form of an AMP, and that being Stoffel Vandoorne. So Vandoorne's the first man out on track in the AMP. So out of the pit lane he goes, and he finished a quite impressive 4th last time out in Brazil. AMP pretty much easing the pain of what has been so far a disappointing start for the Essex-based team, and they're looking to try and rectify that if they can. It seems that Brazil seems to be a kickstarter for them, but they're hoping they can try and continue that throughout the remainder of the season now and then, as Vandoorne trying to get the tyres warmed up as possible. Charles Leclerc also on track as well. This man, as mentioned, has had no luck whatsoever this season, and well, that's pretty much that then really, and he's looking to try and get some points on the board for Shadow Mercedes if he can. Nico Hülkenberg out on track for EMR, so Hülkenberg out on track, as is Carlos Sainz Jr. He's out there as well in the Shadow, so Sainz out there. Antonio Giovinazzi getting some points for Bud Light Lime Motorsport, and I do apologise, it was 5th for Vandoorne. It was this man who finished 4th last time out, Antonio Giovinazzi, so he's out there as well, as is Sergio Perez. Perez out on track for Eldorado. Fernando Alonso out on track as well, felt robbed of a victory last time out in Brazil, and looking for redemption if he can this weekend. Daniel Ricciardo out there as well for GRM, as is Brendan Hartley, Oliver Rowland, and we should hopefully get an announcement on who will be the new owner of Monster Grand Prix by the end of the week, and then hopefully we'll suss out what's going to happen with their GP3 team. Valtteri Bottas out on track, as is Max Verstappen. Pascal Wehrlein out there as well, and Räikkönen and Magnussen, of course, watching on from the sideline. So I believe we have 13 cars out on track at the present moment, which we do. Vandoorne now then will be the first one to set a time, as he just comes up towards the final corner on the track. Unlike the GP2 guys, these guys should be around about in the 1-minute 50s to maybe late 140s. So we will see, so we shouldn't be seeing any 2-minute laps from these guys now then, because they are obviously quicker cars. As Vandoorne now then, and of course Leclerc behind, the 2 former teammates at Shadow last season, just go through the first corner. And Vandoorne now then, so far tidy first couple of corners for the Belgian, as he now goes up towards the right-hander before he flicks left to go into the endurance section of the course. So through then goes Vandoorne, out the corner he goes, as he's now into the endurance section, as he breaks now in towards the chicane through the left, and then the right-hander will go through the double right. Then goes Stoffel Vandoorne, using as much curb as possible on the outside there, as he flicks the car through the right-hander. He will now head down the hill now then to get himself back onto the Grand Prix section of the course. And so far a tidy lap for Vandoorne at this stage, but still got a long way to go before he can complete this lap, as Vandoorne now heads down towards the hairpin. And So out the corner then he will go, using a lot of the curb on the outside there, as he will now approach the double left-hander now then. And tidy through there. A lot of mistakes were made last season with these guys, and so far they seem to have sorted themselves out at the moment, but still got a long way to go in qualifying. Anything can still happen at that left-hander, as Van Dorn now then gets the car turned into that corner, as he will now go flat out through the right-hander now then, up towards the second to last corner goes Stoffel Van Dorn, as he heads down the pitch, down the back straight towards the final corner. And let's see what Van Dorn is able to do, as he gets the sparks coming off the back of the car. Out the final corner and onto the pit straight goes Stoffel Van Dorn. And what's the benchmark time going to be? Across the line goes Stoffel Van Dorn. And what's the time going to be? It's a 1:58.470 for Van Dorn. So Leclerc then beats him with a 1:58.291. Here comes Nico Hulkenberg in the EMR as he exits out of the final corner. Let's see what Hulkenberg is able to do, and he's way off the pace at the moment. It looks like he must have made a mistake somewhere, because that's a 2-minute lap for Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg must have made a mistake somewhere as he goes to third with that lap, as it's P1 at the moment for Sainz. So Hulkenberg clearly making a mistake on his lap. P2 for Antonio Giovinazzi. Here comes Fernando Alonso then. He's just coming around the final corner, heading down the pitch straight. Goes Fernando, and let's see what the time is going to be then for the three-time champion. Alonso is going to cross the line, and it's a 1:57.252, which puts him to the top of the timing sheet. So Alonso goes fastest at the moment. Here comes Daniel Ricciardo across the line. Goes the GRM, and where's he going to go? He goes to 5th with that lap, so it's only P5 for the GRM driver. Hartley crosses the line, and he goes 8th with that lap. Valtteri Bottas in the ever-improving Eldorado. Bottas now then across the line he will go, and he goes 2nd with that lap, so P2 for him. P3 for Max Verstappen, so only 3rd there for the Dutchman. 9th for Pascal Wehrlein, so he gets the car into the top 10. In fact, both A&Ps in the top 10, but at the moment it is currently Alonso top, with Bottas 2nd and Verstappen running out the top 3 at the moment. So a lot of people speculating, are Martini actually the 2nd quickest car on the grid, because they got overhauled last time out in Bahrain with the EMRs and the Eldorado snapping at their heels, and so far it looks like that's continued here in Bahrain, because Bottas is currently outpacing Verstappen at the moment. But we've still got a long way to go, and even Hulkenberg is still yet to show his pace, because it looked like on his lap he made a mistake, possibly maybe around that left-hander he just came out of, not this one, but the one before going on to the support pit straight. So yeah, so maybe we need to see the true pace of Hulkenberg as of yet, but we will wait and see on that as he heads down the back straight towards the final corner. And EMR hoping to put last weekend's disaster behind them after a double retirement from both of their cars. And hopefully here in Bahrain they'll be able to make amends, as now people are back into the pits, as we will wait for another set of cars to come out onto the track. As Wehrlein now then flicks the car through the left-hander, and as he will now go down the back straight towards the left-hander, and Wehrlein now then dropping down a few gears now then in towards that corner, as he will now go flat out through the right-hander, and Wehrlein, as mentioned, will be going back into the pits this time around, and it looks like Scott Dixon will be preparing to go out, but it looks like his teammate will be the first of this group to come out onto the track. And still 7 more cars yet to do laps, because of course both Suomis have a qualifying ban for individual incidents they caused in Brazil with Leclerc and Wehrlein respectively. So that's that for them. As out the corner then goes Ed Jones, as he will now approach the right-hander, and so out the corner he will go, as he now goes into the endurance section. And again, Mars still yet to finish a race so far. They made improvements in Brazil, and possibly could have got points with all the chaos that was happening at Sao Paulo last weekend, but it didn't come to blows, as both of them retired in the second half of the race, but a lot further than what they were in Melbourne, and they're hoping that this weekend they can get one, if not both of their cars to the finish, and to finally get them on the Constructors' Championship board. As Scott Dixon is now out on track in the Mars Grand Prix car, as is Romain Grosjean. Hartley and Hamilton and Rowland will be expected to come out. Verne, Ocon, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Leclerc, Giovinazzi, Vettel, those guys expected to come out onto the track, as out of that left-hander goes Ed Jones as he heads down the back straight towards the left-hander, as he will be preparing to start his next flying lap. Just over 26 minutes remaining in this qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix here at Sakhir, as now Jones goes flat out through the right-hander, as he will now go up towards the second to last corner. Out the corner he will go, using as little curb as possible. Jones preparing to start his next flying lap as he goes up towards the final corner, and out the final corner he goes, and onto the pit straight goes Ed Jones, as one more car came out of the pit lane there. Luckily for Jones, it will not hold him up, as he now starts his lap. As Jones now then up towards turn 1 goes the Emirates driver. And in a way, this is kind of his home Grand Prix, but having saying that, later on in the year we will be going to Abu Dhabi, so that will be his own Grand Prix, but it is near, and I suppose there will be a few Emirates people coming to this event to cheer him on, along with the Etihad Racing boys as well. They've got a team and now a driver to support in IFMC. So Jones now then, as he heads into the endurance section, he will now go up towards the chicane through the left, and then through the double right-hander goes Jones. And I think he just came out of the first sector a little earlier, as now through the right hand he will go. He'll head down through this downhill section up towards the left hander, and then goes Jones, as now he goes through into back onto the Grand Prix section of the course. And so far a smooth lap for the Emirates driver, and as mentioned a little earlier, Mars hoping they can get themselves into the Constructors' Championship board after failing to finish the first 2 races of the season in Australia and Brazil, and I hope in Bahrain will be their breakthrough for them to kickstart their season, their first season into IFMC. They have said in a press conference in Australia they're in it for the long term. They're not expecting too much this season. This is pretty much a learning year for Mars Grand Prix, and they're hoping to make strides from next season onwards. So that's that really, especially with the new regulations coming in next season with the V12s. So yeah, that could still be possible for the team, and hoping that they can maybe take advantage of the V12 regulations if they can for next season. As Jones now then going in towards the final corner to complete his first flying lap. Out of the final corner and onto the pit straight then goes Ed Jones, and let's see what the time is going to be for the Emirates driver. Jones now then across the line he will go, and he goes into P11 with that lap, so it's P11 for Ed Jones. Here's his teammate Scott Dixon, who now heads down the back straight and up towards the final corner. And let's see what Dixon is able to do. The Kiwi now then out of the final corner and onto the pit straight he will go. And Dixon is now going to cross the line, and let's see what the time is going to be for him. And it is P11 for him, so he outpaces teammate Jones at this stage. Romain Grosjean now then out of the final corner. And let's see what Romain is able to do then in the Bud Light Motorsport car. He did take pole, I think, in Qatar last season, but not here. But he had some good pace. In fact, he's even got some good pace around here, because he goes P2 with that lap. The Bud Light Motorsport also showing signs of improvement, like the Eldorados. This is P2 now for Romain Grosjean, getting his car onto the front row. Here comes Lewis Hamilton then in the Etihad. As now he just goes out the final corner. Can he get the Etihad onto the front row with his teammate? As his teammate's currently on the pole. Hamilton across the line, goes the Brit. Hamilton crosses the line and goes fastest. Hamilton now to the top. It's an Etihad front row at the moment, as Roland goes 16th, 13th for Jean-Eric Verne. As now we look at Antonio Giovinazzi, who's currently 7th. Giovinazzi crosses the line, improves but stays in 7th. It's P8 for Nico Hulkenberg, 6th for Esteban Ocon. Sebastian Vettel crosses the line and goes 3rd fastest with that lap, so P3 for Sebastian Vettel, getting close to the Etihads once again in qualifying like he did in Brazil. As here comes Brendan Hartley coming out of the final corner now then, and Hartley is going to cross the line, and let's see what the Kiwi is able to do. And he goes 16th for that lap. Hartley also showing some impressive performances recently. P10 for Charles Leclerc, getting the shadow into the top 10 along with his teammate, who's currently 8th. And it's even an improvement for Sainz, who goes up to P7 like that. Shadow showing some good pace around here in Bahrain. Shadow showing signs that they are definitely an improved team from last season. Now they're running a Mercedes engine, but at the moment it is currently Hamilton fastest, Alonso second, Vettel in third place. That's currently the top three at this stage. We'll possibly look at the top five when Lewis gets back into the pit, but it is currently an Etihad front row lockout at the moment in qualifying as Hamilton goes for a spin at the left-hander there. We know that it is quite a tricky corner to master. Everybody's going to have to avoid him, which they do, and Hamilton pretty much now looking for a gap in the traffic as around goes Giovinazzi there, and around goes Vettel, and around goes Ocon. Hamilton still looking for a gap and throw it. No, that was Vettel. I do apologise. That was his teammate who went round a little earlier. Hamilton finds a gap, but that was quite a weird mistake there. But so far, Hamilton currently on pole at the moment as he looks for his second pole position of the season. As Etihad look to try and get themselves really starting their season here, really, as they were robbed of a victory last time out in Brazil. And pretty much gave Verstappen a very lucky victory at the Brazilian Grand Prix. So now up towards the second to last corner goes Lewis Hamilton as he heads down the back straight, and Hamilton will be coming back into the pits this lap. And up towards the final corner then goes the Brit, and he will then go back into the pits himself. Into the pits then goes Lewis Hamilton, and so there he goes then. So we'll have a quick look then at what the top five looks like, as we have just over 20 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. And his mechanics waiting for him. And let's have a look then to see what the top five currently looks like at this stage. So it is Hamilton fastest, Alonso second, Vettel third, Grosjean fourth, and Bottas in fifth position. So that's what the leaderboard currently looks like at this stage. As Ricciardo also in his box at the moment, currently P12 just behind Nico Hülkenberg, as that looks like Alonso's going out, as he's Max Verstappen. He showed some movement in his pit box. Alonso now out on track, currently P2, looking to see if he can try and grab back that pole position off teammate Lewis Hamilton. As Alonso now then going through turn 1, 2, and then 3 on the track. As now Alonso up towards the right-hander he will go. And looking to see if he can try and get back to the top of the time machines. As mentioned, Verstappen also out on track for Martini Motorsport. Valtteri Bottas out there as well for Eldorado. Pascal Wehrlein as well. Daniel Ricciardo. Esteban Ocon out there as well. The man who's currently tied in the lead in the championship with teammate Verstappen. Perez out on track as well, tied with Lewis for third. It's kind of a weird championship if you look at it in a way. And because everybody who scored points this season is there's ties for first, ties for third, a tie for fifth, a tie for seventh, a tie for ninth, a tie for 11th, and a tie for 13th. And everybody else from 15th downwards hasn't scored a point yet. So it's probably one of the weirdest championships we've probably ever had after the second race. And but still, it is quite fascinating if you look at it, as Alonso prepares to start his next flying lap, as he will now approach the left-hander. So in towards the left-hander then goes Fernando Alonso, and he will be preparing to start his next flying lap on the track as he goes flat out through the right-hander now. Then up towards the second to last corner goes Fernando Alonso, as he will head down towards the final corner on the track. And Alonso, the sparks coming off the back of the Etihad now. Then in towards the final corner then goes the Spaniard, as he heads down the pit straight, and across the line goes Nando to start his lap. So across the line he will go, as he will now head down towards turn 1 on the track, as Verstappen behind him has also just started a lap. In towards turn 1 then goes Nando, as he will now enter towards turn 2, and then around turn 3. At the end of sector 1, of course, is into the endurance section of the course now then, as Alonso heads towards the right-hander. Out he goes now then, as he flicks the car in through the left-hander. And so now up towards the chicane he goes. I think we've just reached the exit of sector 2 now. That sector 1, sorry, not sector 2. And Alonso so far quite a smooth lap as he looks to try and get the pole position back off teammate Lewis Hamilton. Heading down the hill he goes now then, as he will now approach the left-hander. And now then, let's see. As remember, as I mentioned yesterday as well in the GP2 qualifying session, I mentioned yesterday that remember that it is quite a long run between Sector 1 and Sector 2. So that's something that that everybody's got to really keep in mind, as Alonso now then flicks the car through the left-hander. Out of the corner he will go as he heads down the support pit straight, as we ride on board with Fernando Alonso as he heads towards the left-hander he goes. And out the corner he goes as smooth as possible, as he will now go flat out through the right-hander now then. Up towards the second to last corner goes Fernando Alonso as he heads down the back straight now then towards the final corner. And let's see what Fernando can do now then. In towards the final corner and onto the pit straight we will go. And Fernando is going to cross the line. Is this going to be an improvement then for the Spaniard? Fernando crosses the line. Is this going to be faster than Hamilton? And no, it's not. He stays second with that lap as Verstappen goes up to 4th. So up to P4 goes Max Verstappen with that lap. Here comes Valtteri Bottas in the Eldorado. Across the line goes the Flying Finn. And he improves but stays in 6th place with that lap. As here goes Pascal Wehrlein in the AMP. Heading down the pit straight we go. And Wehrlein is going to cross the line. Let's see what it's going to be for him. And no improvement, stays 14th, way off the pace there. I don't know if he made a lock-up during his lap. Ricciardo improves but stays in 12th. It's still 8th for Esteban Ocon. As now we look at Sergio Perez across the line. He goes up to 5th for that lap. So up to P5 goes Sergio Perez. Brilliant time for the Mexican. As up to 16th goes Jean-Eric Verne. Scott Dixon across the line he will go. He stays 18th for that lap. P6 still for Romain Grosjean as Hamilton does not improve. Says on 1 minute 56.842. As here goes Stoffel Van Dorn out of the final corner. Heading down the pit straight. We're 7 minutes away from the 1:30 mark. We are just over half an hour away from the first race of the IFMC GP2 season. As Van Dorn improves but stays in 14th place with that lap. Ed Jones is now going to cross the line. And let's see what it's going to be for him. And he stays in 19th place. No improvement for the Emirates driver. And that's that. So at the moment, it is still Hamilton fastest, Alonso second, Vettel third, Verstappen fourth, and then it is Perez who rounds out the top 5. So that's how the leaderboard currently stands at this stage. But it's so far an Etihad lockout on the front row at the moment in qualifying. And so that's that at the present moment. Is now up towards the final corner goes Fernando, as he will now go into the pits. And into the pits then goes Fernando Alonso as he flicks on the pit limiter. And his mechanics wait for him at this stage. As just under 14 minutes remaining in the session. It's Hamilton, Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen and Perez, as I just mentioned, at the present moment. Only 20 cars competing in qualifying, of course, because both Suomis have a qualifying ban for individual incidents that they caused last weekend at Brazil. And so far, the gap between Hamilton and Alonso in qualifying is only 0.4 of a second. Vettel only a few hundredths off Alonso in second at the moment, but it does appear that so far, as it stands, it looks like it's going to be 3 in a row in qualifying for the Etihads. And could be another pole position for Hamilton, who, as statistics say, if you look on the main Wikia page for IFMC, Hamilton has the most pole positions of anybody in this series. So it looks like he's going to add another pole to that. I think it'll be pole number 16 if it stays like this for Lewis Hamilton in IFMC. So as we see there, Ed Jones will be heading back into the pits this lap, as now in towards the final corner then goes Ed Jones, as he now heads into pit lane along with somebody else. It looked like an AMP that was in the pits there. And anybody else now on track. And it looks like somebody else is coming out. It is the former Sebastian Vettel, but and I think he's actually going to be the first to come out onto the track. Well, I say that, somebody has actually gone out in front of him first, and it is Brendan Hartley in the fellow Mercedes-powered car, that being the Monster Grand Prix car. So far in 17th place, got Monster's first points of the season last time out in Sao Paulo after all the cars that had happened. So Hartley pretty much showing his talents after winning the GP2 title last season, and so far having quite an impressive season, it must be said, for the Kiwi. As Vettel also out on track, as is Antonio Giovinazzi. Also on track is Ollie Rowland in the Monster. Nico Hulkenberg back out onto the track, as is Fernando Alonso, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, Sol Van Dorn, Carlos Sainz Jr., Pascal Wehrlein and Valtteri Bottas. Those guys will be expected to do another lap and expect to come back out onto the track. In fact, a group of them have come out around about the same time, so we could see a lot of hold-ups on these lap times that we're going to be seeing as we ride on board with Brendan Hartley in the Monster Grand Prix car, as he now heads through the left-hander, and Hartley will be preparing to start his next flying lap in the Monster car as he will now approach the hairpin. Out the corner he will go now then, as he prepares to start his next flying lap, and in towards the hairpin we go. And as mentioned, Hartley starting a lap. Vettel behind, he'll be hoping that Hartley in front in the Mercedes-powered Monster. A fellow Mercedes customer does not hold him up on this lap then, as Vettel approaches the left-hander now then. And now Vettel will go flat out through the right-hander as he will now approach the second-to-last corner. And now heading down the back straight, and as that then, Giovinazzi also on track, currently in the cusp of the top 10 at the moment, being outpacing qualifying by teammate Romain Grosjean. And that was kind of a, well, except for victories, obviously Grosjean outpaced Giovinazzi last season, and Grosjean obviously inevitably beat him in the Drivers' Championship, and so far he's currently beating him in this as well. Hartley starts his lap along with the three other guys behind him, that being Vettel, Giovinazzi and teammate Rowland, as into turn 1 then goes Brendan Hartley. Through turn 2, and then around turn 3 he will go as he heads up towards the right-hander on the track, and it looks like Vettel may get held up by Brendan at this stage, as looked like Dave was riding onto the bumps quite a lot there and had to do a little bit of an alteration to his driving to approach for that right-hander. That may have cost him time as a result, and maybe a chance to try and split the Etihad again like he did in Brazil, as Hartley exits out of that right-hander. Through he goes now then, as he will head down the hill towards the left-hander on the track. And Hartley now then flicking the car in. And Hartley will now approach the right-hander, as he got a really big flick there and a huge lock-up for Brendan Hartley right in the face of Sebastian Vettel there. So Vettel got a big plume of smoke coming onto his face there, as now Hartley will approach the left-hander. So this lap has already been wrecked for both Hartley and Vettel, and Giovinazzi will be hoping he doesn't catch up to these guys as a result and get his lap impeded. As we ride on board with Sebastian Vettel in towards the left-hander he will go, and as he tries to get up close to the monster car, up towards the flat-out right-hander we will go. Vettel looks like he's going to try and put an overtake on him in towards the second-to-last corner if he can, which he doesn't. He stays single file into that corner, and already, as mentioned a little earlier, both of them have already impeded their laps as a result, as Vettel finds a way down the inside of Brendan Hartley, and looks like he's got the pass done there in towards the final corner, which he does. So Vettel out of the way, but still his lap's already been wrecked as a result, as Vettel heads down the pit straight, and across the line goes the German. And let's see anyway, yep, it got wrecked by 1.6 seconds, and Hartley's lap also getting wrecked. They stayed in 3rd and 17th respectively. Still 10th for Antonio Giovinazzi, still 20th for Rowland, but he did improve on his best time. Here comes Fernando Alonso, across the line goes the Spaniard. Can he improve? And he does, but he stays in 2nd place, so still P2 for Fernando Alonso. Charles Leclerc across the line goes up to 11th, so he gains a place from that. Max Verstappen stays in 4th. No improvement for the Dutchman at this stage. As we now look at Carlos Sainz Jr., who approaches the final corner, and onto the pit straight will go the Spaniard. And let's see what Sainz is able to do then. Across the line goes Carlos Sainz Jr., as he will now cross the line, and he stays P9 with that lap. So still 9th is Carlos Sainz Jr. Valtteri Bottas crosses the line, and he stays in 8th place. No improvement for the Flying Finn. Daniel Ricciardo heading out of the final corner, and let's see what Danny Rick is able to do. as Ricciardo will now cross the line, and he does not improve, stays in 13th place with that lap. Pascal Wehrlein across the line goes the AMP driver, and is this going to be an improvement for him? No, stays 15th for the moment. His teammate currently outpacing him in 14th place, as now he heads in towards the final corner, and let's see what the Belgian is able to do on this lap as he heads down the pit straight. And Van Dorn, is this going to be an improvement then for the Belgian? Van Dorn across the line he will go, and he does not improve, only just though, and stays 14th with that lap, as that's that really at this stage, as Vettel looks to have already gone back into the pits, really got away from Hartley as a result. It shows how slow the monster is at the moment in terms of pace. So Vettel went back into the pits quite quickly, it must be said, as Hartley in, as is Giovinazzi, as we have just under 6.5 minutes remaining in the session. In fact, there's Vettel, so he may have made a mistake somewhere. In fact, I do apologise. Vettel must have made a mistake somewhere on his in-lap there. Luckily it is his in-lap and not his actual flying lap. So both EMRs making mistakes in qualifying, it must be said, as Vettel out the corner he will go, as he will go back into the pits, as Sainz also coming into the pits in the shadow, and in towards the final corner he will go, and so into the pits there goes the shadow, and Valtteri Bottas also into the pits as well, and Ricciardo also coming back in, as will Wehrlein and Van Dorn, as we wait for another set of cars to come out. So far, Ocon's in the cusp of the top 10 at the moment, looking to try and see if he can improve at this stage. We know his strength isn't in qualifying. We know he's got better race pace, like in real life, I believe. But, so kind of like in real life, I think, in a way, Ocon, not the best in qualifying, but definitely a good racer. And no wonder people have tipped him in real life to be a future world champion. As Grosjean now then, out on track he will go, as he's currently in 7th place. So as mentioned, a slight improvement for Bud Light Motorsport at the moment in terms of their pace, as out of the pit lane then goes Grosjean. He's inside of turn 1 through turn 2 and around turn 3 he will go, and Grosjean now then up towards the right-hander will go the Bud Light line, and so now he just flicks the car in through the left-hander, and so through he will go, and so now around the right-hander then goes Romain Grosjean, as he will now head down the hill towards the left-hander, and so now Grosjean preparing to start his next flying lap, and it will not be his final one because he's still got 6 laps left according to his steering wheel, but I don't think he'll have enough time to do it, so it may be his final flying lap, just judging by how much time we've got left, because we've only just got over 4 minutes remaining in this qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix, as Grosjean now then approaches the left-hander, and up towards that corner he will go, and flicking the car in, preparing to start his next flying lap. Scott Dixon out on track along with fellow Eldorado employee Sergio Perez, and Perez hoping he doesn't get held up by Dixon on this lap. Jones also on track, as his current poleman Lewis Hamilton. Esteban Ocon, the tied championship leader, back out onto the track, as is Jean-Eric Verne in the GRM. Nico Hulkenberg also out on track, as is Charles Leclerc, Sebastian Vettel, Brendan Hartley, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Roland will also be expected to come out as well. But Grosjean now then has just started his lap as he goes up towards turn 1 on the track, as the sparks came off the back of his Bud Light Motorsport car, and again as he broke in towards turn 1 there. And Grosjean now then flicking the car in through these corners now then, as he will now go up towards the right-hander, as we have just over 3 minutes of the session remaining. Through the right-hander will go Romain Grosjean, and through the left-hander he will go now then, as he heads in towards the left-hander on the track, and out of the right-hander we will go, as he uses as much of the curve as possible, flicking the car in, as he will now head down the hill now then towards back onto the Grand Prix section of the track, and so far it does appear to be a clean lap for the Frenchman. And let's see, as it's now a long run towards the second sector now then on the track, and he's looking to try and improve if he can, as Grosjean goes up towards the double left-hander, and out the corner he will go, using a lot of the curb on the right hand side there on the exit, as now he will approach the first corner of the support pit straight. Just over 2 minutes remaining now then in this qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. And Grosjean now then goes flat out through that corner up towards the second to last corner goes Romain Grosjean, as he will head down the back straight up towards the final corner he will go. And let's see what Romain is able to do. Is this going to be an improvement from 7th place? Could he possibly try and get the Bud Light Motorsport into the top 5 as he now heads down the pit straight? Grosjean is now going to cross the line. Is this going to be an improvement for the Frenchman? Across the line he will go, and he does. He goes up to 6th place, so it is an improvement but not up to the top 5 as I predicted. So up to 6th place goes Romain Grosjean, an improvement there for the Frenchman. As Roland prepares to start his lap, here comes Sergio Perez, who's currently 7th at the moment. Is this going to be an improvement for Checo as he heads down the pit straight? And Checo is now going to cross the line. Is this going to be an improvement for him? And it is, but he stays 7th for that lap, doesn't improve on position. Still 18th for Scott Dixon. Ed Jones now then, across the line goes the Amaretti's driver, and he stays 19th, no improvement for him. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Can he improve on his pole position time? Hamilton heading down the pit straight now then, and across the line goes the Etihad, and is this an improvement? And it is, with a 1 minute 56.607. That's a really big improvement from Lewis Hamilton. A dominant performance. It's P2 now for Esteban Ocon. Ocon gets his martini onto the front row, and he splits the two Etihads at the moment, as it's an improvement for Vernie. Goes to the 15th. 5th now for Nico Hulkenberg, so he gets into the top 5. Charles Leclerc crosses the line, stays in 11th, no improvement for him. 19 seconds remaining. Vettel across the line goes the German, and he does not improve. He stays in 4th with that lap now then, as here comes Brendan Hartley in the Monster car. 7 seconds remaining. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Checkered flag is out, and that's the end of the session. An improvement for Hartley, but he stays in 17th place. Antonio Giovinazzi heads down the pit straight, and let's see what the time is going to be for him. Giovinazzi crosses the line, and let's see, and he does not improve, stays in 12th place at the moment. Again, his teammate out qualifying him at the moment. Roland is the last man to do a flying lap, as he now goes flat out through the right-handers. He tries to get out the dreaded last place. Through the right-hander goes Roland, as he will now head down the back straight towards the final corner. And let's see what Roland is able to do now then, as he heads up towards the final corner on the track. And now he'll head down the pit straight, and across the line goes Ollie Roland. And let's see what the lap is going to be. Is this going to be an improvement for him? And it is, but he stays in 20th. But he gets out of the 2 minute zone as a result. And I think it hasn't said it yet, but that should be it for qualifying as a result. And because Roland has crossed the line to finish his lap, I think we have to wait for a certain number of cars to go back into the pits. But as a result, it is Lewis Hamilton who's on pole position for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix, with Ocon 2nd and Alonso in 3rd. So that's the top 3 as a result. Verstappen, I believe, down in 6th place. So for the first time this season, Ocon has out-qualified Verstappen in qualifying. So found a lap somewhere to get the car onto the front row after being just in the cusp of the top 10 a little bit earlier for the Frenchman. As Roland now then exits out of the left-hander. We wait for the words to say qualifying over on the board there, unless it has something to do with Raikkonen. I do not know, but we'll wait and see on that then, as Hartley is back into the pits. It's P17 for the Kiwi, as it's P12 for Giovinazzi and P20 for Roland. As we wait for it to say qualifying over, of course, and I think it might have something to do with Kimi Raikkonen, but we'll wait and see when Roland goes back into the pits, as he flicks the car into the left-hander. And so that's that really, as he now goes flat out through the right-hander now then, and up towards the second to last corner, and then he'll go up towards the final corner, and we'll be seeing Roland go back into the pits. And so now through the final corner, and we'll be seeing Roland go right and into the pits, and it might have something to do with the fact that Raikkonen's in the pit lane, which is why it's not saying qualifying over at the present moment. And I think it has, but we'll wait and see once Roland gets into his pit box there. And so that's that then, really. So Roland now then in his box, and it might have something to do with Raikkonen, but we'll wait and see. And yeah, it has something to do with Raikkonen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of an acceleration. And there you go then. So there you have it then, guys. That has been it for qualifying. And as you can see, it is Lewis Hamilton on pole by a big margin as well. He dominated qualifying here today. So there you have it then, guys. After all of that, here's the grid for tomorrow's Bahrain Grand Prix. It's Lewis Hamilton on pole position with Esteban Ocon in second, Fernando Alonso third, Nico Hülkenberg fourth, Sebastian Vettel fourth, Nico Hülkenberg fifth, Max Verstappen sixth, Romain Grosjean seventh, Sergio Perez in eighth, Valtteri Bottas ninth, Carlos Sainz Jr. 10th, Charles Leclerc 11th, Antonio Giovinazzi 12th, Daniel Ricciardo 13th, Stoffel Van Dorn 14th. And if we scroll down the rest of the field, it's Jean-Eric Vergne 15th, Pascal Wehrlein 16th, Brendan Hartley 17th, Scott Dixon 18th, Ed Jones 19th, Oliver Rowland 20th, and due to their qualifying bans, Kimi Raikkonen is 21st, and Kevin Magnussen is in 22nd position. So there you have it then, guys. That is the qualifying session for IFMC here in Bahrain. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully it's in for a fascinating race as well, especially with fuel being critical around here in Bahrain. Anything could happen. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it. I hope you enjoyed it. But stick around now, guys, because coming up next is the feature race for IFMC GP2, their first race of the season, which sees Felix Rosenqvist on pole and of Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly. So if you want to go and grab a quick drink, then you can. It is coming up in around 17 minutes time. But until then, I've been JWF1, and I'll see you guys in just a little bit.